Are you ready to learn some more advanced prompt engineering principles? Welcome back to today's video. Today we'll be still continuing on prompt engineering, but focusing on more advanced principles. Now, if you haven't already, make sure to check out my last two videos on prompt engineering, as those cover more basic and intermediate principles that there might be used in some of these advanced principles, because of course we're just building up on our skills, so it's important to have the basics. So if you don't know what prompt engineering is still, all it gotta do is you want something from it and you want to get it to be the most efficient as possible, so that you don't have to spend a lot of time like, oh, can you make this better, or can you make it like longer or whatever. You want it to be best the first go and to give it the best output that it can. Today we'll be talking about 3 more principles, and hopefully these are all new to you, so you'll be learning something too. So let's just jump right into it. So first off, we have Ask Me Anything prompt. Now, this is stated in 2022 in a research paper, and what it generally does is build a language learning model such that it can answer more open-ended questions. So how do we do that? It kind of is similar to how I talked about in my second video of prompt debiasing. So you want to ask it a lot of different types of questions, maybe like multiple choice, yes or no, why, what, where, like the W questions, why, what, where, when, why, what, where, when, how, why.
A few moments later.
Basically, you're trying to train the model to be able to answer all of these questions, and you have to give it a lot of different like model inputs such that they vary in these types of questions. Now, one thing that it's different from prompt debiasing is that instead of just asking your question and answer, you might want to actually ask it to make a question. Now, how do we do this? So most often we probably have some context and a claim, like a fact, for each question we ask. So instead, we want to ask it to generate a question for us based on these contexts and claims. And then we can have model inputs for these so that it has a variety in like multiple choice, yes or no questions, some why, what, when, where, what, when, why, what, when, okay, the W questions, and like maybe some short fill in the blank questions. And then we can take this question that it generated and then feed it back into another prompt where we actually ask the question and see what the answer is. So this approach is pretty interesting because we don't actually have to come up with a question ourselves. All we gotta do is basically give it facts that we already know about the main subject of the question. By giving it context and facts, you know it has to be true. It's 100% true. But the wording of how each individual person speaks might be different. And because of that, ChatGPT might have different interpretations of it and leads to maybe not as accurate answers. So this approach will definitely help increase the accuracy of the outputs that you want from it, and maybe try it out sometimes if you find it interesting. Now let's move on to the next one. The second principle that we have is program-aided learning models. Now, as the name suggests, it does require some kind of code. What this does is you ask it a question, usually it's like some sort of math word problems, and then give it a model answer. Now, the second question you would ask, you would basically have it spit out actual code, maybe like Python, let's say, and then it'll break down your word problem into simpler steps, kind of like how us developers think. So you would basically extract the data out of your math problem, make like variables, maybe a table, and then from there on, you use these data, do some intermediate calculations, and then get your final answer. So as I said, this is more advanced because you do need to know coding, but the next one up, it is not just restricted to programmers. So let's just hop right into it. So third of all, we have React prompting. So React is based on reason and act. What this does is basically break your question down into different thoughts. So it's similar into chain of thought, but instead of just going on thoughts, we force it to take action with each thought and generate some kind of observation from these actions. So a prompt that I like to include to use this method is to say like, answer this question by breaking it down into multiple thought, act, observation steps. Now, also ignore unnecessary observations because you basically only want your answer. You don't want random junk in there, right? Now, this phrase is one that I came up on my own by experimenting with ChatGPT, so feel free to like play around with it, find one that works the best for you. But this is like definitely not a framework I came up with on my own. It is something that has been studied before, and essentially it is basically more effective than chain of thought prompting because it forces the language learning model to take action and have intermediate observations, which might help with the final answer. So that is all the prompt engineering principles for today, and hope you guys actually learned something new. If you found one of them interesting and I don't know, decide to play around with it, definitely let me know in your comments how your experience was. If you liked this video and found it helpful, definitely make sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so that you can catch me on whatever new things I'm gonna learn. Anyways, that is all for today. Hope you guys have a great day. See you guys in the next video. Peace.